Hi Internet, Solidus here, and today sees the release of WoW's newest expansion, Shadowlands, and at the time of recording, it is 10 hours away before we step foot back to Icecrown Citadel before going into the moor and making our way into the Shadowlands. So some of you may have played through the beta and have tested and have done the leveling experience, and you are going to be wanting to level as fast as you can to 60, and for others, you're going to want to take your time, explore the story, play the game, and just get there when you get there. Either way, though, everybody is going to want to do the same thing once they get to level 60, and that is get the best gear that they possibly can. So that is what this video is going to be talking about today. We've found out a few things from the developers over the past week or so in terms of what is being unlocked, when it's being unlocked, and how long we can expect to see certain things come into play. So let's get talking around how we're going to be gearing up and what is the maximum eye level we're going to be able to achieve in the first couple of weeks. So given the fact that Torghast is opening layers by layers, and given by the fact that we have to build levels of renown to a certain period of numbers before we can then start getting higher eye level gear from callings or getting more soul ash for legendaries and so on and so forth, we can reasonably assume and aim for roughly 184 as our best eye level. Other than your initial legendary, there isn't going to be any more gear in the first 2 weeks that you can get over eye level 184. Why is that? So there's been a few changes to loot in general for Shadowlands, as most of you probably know. First of all, and to most people's delight, Warforging and Titan Forging has been removed, in a sense, from the game. No more will you be able to go into a Mythic Plus key or into a raid and get a piece of loot and it randomly rolls like 30 eye levels higher than what everybody else gets it at. That is gone. There is also no more corruption. You still can get random procs of gem slots on your gear, and there are some tertiary stats like speed and so on and so forth. But other than that, loot is loot in this expansion. If you are going and you are expecting to get an eye level piece of 200 from this Mythic Plus key, then that is what that loot will drop at. Most people really like that. That means we've got something to work towards. We technically have a best in slot list which we can go for straight away. What that does mean, though, is that there will be less loot in the game. So Ian Hazakostas has already said that loot will be dropping less in the Shadowlands, and we've seen that in the beta. Mythic Plus keys, if you time it, you get 2 pieces of loot, and if you don't time the key, only 1 person gets a piece of loot. And we've now found out as well that from the Mythic raids, then only 3 pieces of loot will drop from a boss, down from 5, which we saw in Battle for Azeroth. So we can expect to be gearing up slower. So, what else has changed then? Sockets can only be used on certain pieces of gear, and they are your helmets, your rings, your belts, your braces, and also your necks. And don't forget, we are no longer going to be using the Heart of Azeroth or the cloak from Rathian, so we will have those items on our loot table as well. You can also, if you don't roll a gem slot on your piece of gear, there is an item similar to how there was in Visions, which you can buy for Stygia from the Moor. So the Moor is essentially where we are going to be grinding and collecting a currency called Stygia, and then you can use it to purchase certain items from a vendor there called Venari, who you have to build up your reputation with, and then that will allow you to put a socket on one of those pieces of gear. So if you've got the best item level piece of gear with no socket on it, you can then go and put one on yourself. So overall, there's been a few changes to loot, but that is it in a nutshell. So why am I saying 184 then is the highest item level that you're going to be getting roughly? Well, other than your legendary, which if you go for level 1 will be eye level 190, 184 eye level gear drops from Mythic 0 dungeons. Mythic 0 will be open from the get-go, but that will be it. The raid is not open obviously just yet. PvP, you can do that, and with some of the changes that they've made to the PvP vendor, PvP is a very good way of gearing up, especially if PvP is just your focus. You've also got your world quests and your callings, which were emissaries. And I do have a video, which I will put at the top of the screen here, which goes into how callings and emissaries work. That drops gear, just like it does in Battle for Azeroth. And that, again, is tied to your current eye level. But then that also will increase dependent on the level of renown that you have. However, your level of renown is time gated. So in week 1, we will only be allowed to get to renown 4, and then after that, each week, you will be able to increase your renown by 3 levels. So at the end of the second week, we are going to be sat at renown level 7. That means we cannot upgrade our PvP gear past 184, and it also means that our emissaries or our calling loot that you get will drop an item level base lower than 184. World quests will typically take a little bit longer than you are used to, and they drop around 148 and above for a item level basis. So obviously as you start going up, similar to how we did in Battle for Azeroth, as your eye level starts going up, and it's your bag eye level, not necessarily your equipped eye level, then the world quest rewards will start to go up, and that starts at 148, and your conduits will drop from 145 and above. Don't forget, the conduits that we use with our soulbinds also have an item level, and each time you get a higher eye level, you get their best rank, and it starts doing either more throughput or it provides more utility, and so on and so forth. So initially, when you get to level 60, you are going to want to progress on your renown to get it up to level 4. You will have to go and collect anima, which you'll do naturally over the week. You will need to rescue souls from the moor, which you will do naturally when you go in there to get going on there. You will also need to do a campaign quest, which you are given as well. And that will then progress you through. And then you will also get a level of renown for doing the Torghast introduction chapters from Bolvar Fordragon. And you're going to want to do that anyway because you need that to craft your legendary with the Soul Ash. So once you get to 60... I'd recommend accepting those 3 things and getting on with them. Then you want to be looking at your world quests. What are dropping gear? What will help you in doing your callings, because your callings are different? Go and do those. If you are a crafter, then you can craft your gear, and crafting gear drops from eye level 151. So when you craft a piece of gear, it will be eye level 151. Now this can be increased to eye level 168, and you do this with a new reagent that has come in, and you can see them in your profession tab now. They are the crafter's mark, and it's the level 2 that you want, so you can be crafting that piece of gear. It's also worth noting as well, and something to bear in mind, that if you are a crafter and you want to start crafting pieces for your legendary items, then you need to be collecting and farming the mats because it's quite costly. So I'd recommend crafting would be a good way, a good source of getting gear to help you level up and be able to start crafting these base items, which you are going to be able to sell with a tidy profit on the auction house because everybody is going to be wanting that. Okay, so then the biggest way I would say to level up your gear quite quickly is through dungeons. So we have normal dungeons, we have heroic dungeons, and we have the Mythic 0. Normal drops 158, and that is when you are at level 60, okay? Because obviously we'll be able to do normal dungeons from levels 50 to 60. And then you've also got heroic dungeons, which drop eye level 171. And then finally, you have got your Mythic 0, which drop eye level 184 gear. So as soon as you've got where you think that you are comfortable to step foot in Mythics, and you perhaps have a group that you can go and you can go on the Mythic World Tour and you can do all 8 of the Mythic dungeons, then that would be the way that you get the highest eye level piece of gear. Remember, it's exactly the same as it is in Battle for Azeroth. You can go into a Mythic dungeon once per week and it will drop loot once per week, potentially, if you're lucky. So you can't farm these over and over again as you can with the normal and heroic dungeons. So 184, Mythic 0, that's where you want to be aiming for. And personally, if you're just doing one character, I would try and do 8 dungeons the first 2 weeks to get you to the 184 mark. The second, one of the other ways, and I mentioned earlier on, was your PvP. So in Shadowlands, when you get a piece of PvP gear which you can buy from a vendor, you can then take it back to an NPC standing just to the right of him. You can put your piece of gear into the little window that pops up, and you can use your honor to upgrade that piece of gear. Now, the most that you can upgrade that piece of gear to through honor is eye level 197. But very, very similar to how the callings work, you need to be a certain renown level to be able to do that. And I believe you need to be renown level 22 to be able to get the highest eye level, the 197 gear, and you need to be level 7 to be able to craft 184 gear. Obviously, you'll need quite a few points of honor to be able to do that. So farming battlegrounds is going to be something that some people are going to want to do. If PvP is your sole focus, obviously that's great. If you are not a fan of PvP, then you might want to avoid this and just pray to RN Jesus that the Mythic Zeros drop well for you. Another way that you can get gear is through reputation. You're going to be able to level up reputation with various like your covenants and so on and so forth, and then they do sell eye level 200 pieces of gear, but that is at exalted and it is at 181 at revered. And then finally, the last thing that I will talk about then is your legendaries. So you are going to be able to craft a legendary week 1 most likely. I say most likely because we still need to see some of the numbers. It's been changed. They're still making some changes. Even today, I think there's some changes going in. So we need to see what that is. But realistically, you should be able to. This does mean that you are going to need to do the complete quest line or as far as you possibly can with Bolvar, because he awards you Soul Ash when you complete quests. And you are also going to need to run as much Torghast as you possibly can. That then should give you enough to craft 1 legendary. That legendary is eye level 190, so that is the exception to this rule. You'll have 1 piece of eye level 190 gear, and that's something that you can choose. Now, as a little piece of recommendation, a bit of advice, now obviously there's some great posts on Wowhead that you can go and check out. But just have a look at which you think or you know is your best legendary and look at the slots that you can use. Because with legendaries, you can use 2 slots, so you can craft 2 pieces of gear. So on one, for instance, you might be able to get the legendary in either your wrists or you might be able to get it in your belt, for instance. What I would do is I would just have a look in the raid encounter, the dungeon journal. I would have a look through each of the different bosses and see which bosses drop which piece of loot for you, which drops your wrists and which drops your belt, what the stats like, which are your best ones. Because if your wrist from raid actually, well, that's actually like a best in slot piece for me, and your belt isn't, then you're best off crafting your legendary in the belt slot, because then you're not going to replace it. Because if you end up crafting a legendary and then you get a piece of gear in the same slot, which is actually really, really good, then you're going to feel a little bad about crafting that legendary, and that's, you don't want that at the end of the day. So there you go. 2 weeks, eye level 184, and that is if you are like really min-maxing. If you really want to min-max, then once you've done your mythic pluses, you've done your callings and so on, then go and farm some battlegrounds for your honor. If not min-maxing and you just want to do as best you can while still enjoying the game and having fun with it, and maybe even starting on a second character, then yeah, mythic zeros, heroics, to get your callings in, and so on and so forth. Start working on your reputations, craft anything that you need to, and yeah, have fun. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be doing some more news and guides around Shadowlands as it comes out. I've got some class guides in the making. So yeah, look out for them. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you're not, please do subscribe to the channel for those new videos coming up. Thank you very much.